Hello, everyone. I know many of you are enjoying the food and enjoying the books. Isn't it heartwarming to see all the books? Getting a catch. It's just, in modern era, we don't get to see books so often, and there's just such wonderful displays out there that I'm sure you're all enjoying. So welcome, everyone, to the Snyder book collecting contest. This is an annual event. It is my first. I've been here 10 months. I still have more to see about what KU Libraries brings to the community, but right now I'm thinking this is a pretty strong contender for my favorite event. This is amazing. So I'm Carol Smith, Dean of KU Libraries. I'd like to welcome everybody here today. We are so pleased that you could join us. This event is organized by KU Libraries and Jayhawk Inc., and it brings together students, faculty, librarians, friends, benefactors, and the books that they all love so well, that we all love so well. This contest began in 1956 through Elizabeth Snyder's generosity and vision. And you can see photographs of Elizabeth Snyder on the table in the back, and I encourage you to take a look at photos of her through the years. This year marks the 66th annual Snyder book collecting contest. My understanding is there were a couple of pandemic years where it may not have taken place, but we are back in action again. 66 years. This makes it one of the oldest book collecting contests in the nation. Pretty incredible. It takes a large group of individuals to make this event possible, and I would like to begin by acknowledging our judges. I was watching them in the room back there behind glass, soundproof glass, engaged in very animated discussion. They were throwing grapes at each other as they debated. No, I'm kidding. It was very, but I'm sure it was not an easy decision that you came to. So I would like to begin by thanking and acknowledging our judges this year, and they are first Beth Whitaker, Associate Dean for Distinctive Collections and Director of the Spencer Research Library, and a long-time judge for the Snyder Book Collecting Contest. How many years have you been judging?
As long as I've been here.
Okay, that's a few years. I would also like to thank Ken Stevens, a great and steadfast supporter of KU Libraries and a member of our KU Libraries Board of Advocates. Thank you, Ken Stevens, for serving as a judge. And finally, I would like to thank our keynote speaker, Allie Alvis. Allie is a KU alum and a former winner of this contest, 2012.
Yes, not 2013.
2012, and you'll hear more from them shortly. So thank you, judges. Oh, Christian, you're not on my notes. How is this possible? Thank you for your service.
Former winner.
And former winner in the year 2022. And I learned that Sarah McCall, one of our newest librarians, an undergraduate engagement librarian, was a winner in 2016. So we have winners working amongst us every day in secret. I would also like to recognize the members of our Snyder Contest Committee, and they are Christine Montz, Events and Donor Relations Coordinator for KU Libraries. Hi, Christine. Thank you. Aaron Wolf, our Digital Initiatives Librarian. Aaron, where are you? He's not well. Okay. Samantha Bishop Simmons, our Humanities Librarian. I know Samantha is here today. Hi, Samantha. Thank you. Eve Woolenes, our Special Collections Curator. Eve? There you are. There you are. And I'm going to be calling Eve back up to the podium in a few moments. Paul Thomas, Library Associate. Thank you, Paul. Rachel Barnes from the KU Bookstore. Not here today. And Wendy Conover, our Communications Coordinator for KU Libraries. Thank you, Snyder Contest Committee, for making this happen this year and every year. We really appreciate it. I also would like to thank our Office of Communications and Advancement for planning such a lovely event for us all this afternoon with wonderful catering in the back and drinks over here, and please partake and enjoy. And last but not least, certainly, I do want to recognize the one person again who truly laid the foundation for this exceptional contest, and that is the late Elizabeth Snyder. I have a story to share with you. In late 1956, the then Dean of Libraries, Robert Vosper, wrote to Mrs. Snyder about his idea for encouraging young people to, quote, buy or collect their own books and begin to learn something of the pleasure of having interesting private collections of books at home. No one will know better than you how much pleasure and excitement this can bring. So clearly, Elizabeth Snyder was a lover of books and a recognized lover of books. Mrs. Snyder replied in writing that your idea for developing a student's interest in books and book collecting is basically so sound and full of fruitful thought that I couldn't help but be interested. And so she immediately offered her financial support for the contest to begin. Although Mrs. Snyder claimed that she was not really much of a collector, she built many remarkable collections, including one that she started in high school on A.A. Milne, best known as the creator of Winnie the Pooh. Her H.L. Mencken collection includes some inscribed first editions, letters written by Mencken, and periodicals that Mencken edited. So this Milne and Mencken collections are part of a series of generous donations that Mrs. Snyder made to KU libraries over the years. I'm assuming that they can be found in Spencer Research Library. Wonderful. And then Mrs. Snyder goes on to say, quote, to have what I have collected to be used for research, that is what is important. I feel it should be where it can be enjoyed by many, and that's certainly what libraries bring to us all. Mrs. Snyder later established an endowment through the KU Endowment Association, and we have Dan Martin here with us today representing the endowment. Thank you for being here. To provide permanent funding for the competition. Until her death in 2004, Mrs. Snyder attended the awards ceremony every year to share her enthusiasm for book collecting. So, in honor of Mrs. Snyder, we are thankful to her for her vision and her generosity, and we are all excited to be carrying on this grand tradition this year. So, thanks, Mrs. Snyder. And I think that she would be excited by the incredibly interesting and varied and substantial number of book entries that we have this year. I understand it's more than we have had in previous years. So now I would like to take a moment, as I mentioned, I would like to ask Eve Woolen, our Special Collections Curator, to come up for just a few minutes to tell you about something really interesting that is happening on the screen over here.
Hello, so just to highlight over there, we have a quick slideshow actually of some of our materials that have been inspired by the applicants and submissions that we saw submitted for this contest today, where as part of the committee, I was reviewing all of these essays and I saw children's collections and I was like, we have a children's collection. And I saw sci-fi collections and I said, we have sci-fi materials. And so I pulled together a little slideshow of some of the materials that we have within the Kenneth Spencer Research Library, because what I really want to show you is that we have many very old books that are very cool, but we also have a huge breadth of materials, and what you collect is what we collect, and what you think is important and interesting is what we think is important and interesting, and that what you do is what we do. And if you are ever so inclined to come see some of these really cool things, we have them here at your disposal to actually look at and use for your own creativity and exploration as well. Thank you.
Thank you for doing that for us, Eve. So when you refill your wine glass or get a glass of sparkling cider, please take a look at what Eve has put together. Now I would like to give the podium over to Beth Whitaker, head of the Kenneth Spencer Research Library, to introduce our keynote speaker.
Thank you, Carol. I'm excited to hear you say that this might be your favorite event because everybody who's heard me up at this podium before knows that this is my favorite event of the year. And this year is particularly magnificent. Amazing to have Allie back at KU. We have a 1969 or 1970 winner. Jeff is in the audience. We have a range and breadth and depth of collections that is really outstanding. This is a great turnout. We have a beautiful spring day. Really, what more could we ask for? So, good afternoon, everyone. Beth Whitaker, Associate Dean of Distinctive Collections, Director of the Kenneth Spencer Research Library. This is the point where I say, how many of you have been to the Kenneth Spencer Research Library? Excellent. I've been teasing Allie because even though they've gone on to a really incredible career in special collections and book culture and book arts, today was their first time in Spencer Research Library. So if you are a KU student, don't be like Allie. Don't. Come over.
Do it today.
Well, we're going to be closed, but yeah. Okay, so I'm going to introduce Allie. I'm all over the place. I'm just so excited. Allie won the Snyder Book Collecting Contest in 2012 with their entry, Language and Linguistics, How Words Changed My Life. And really, this collection can change lives. Along with much appreciated prize money, Snyder contest allowed Allie's something more, and that was the opportunity to kind of develop and think about your career and interests. So after graduating from KU in 2013, Allie studied at the University of Edinburgh and the University of Glasgow, earning master's degrees in material culture and the history of the book. That was a degree that you could get. You can't get that degree at Glasgow anymore. But wow.
Edinburgh.
Oh, Edinburgh, okay. And information management and digital preservation, which you can still get. Okay. Allie has worked at Smithsonian Libraries and Archives in Washington, D.C., and as a cataloger with the rare book bookseller Type Punch Matrix, which are the 3 hardest words to say in the English language. Now curator of special collections at the the next hardest word to pronounce. They'll say it. Allie works with unique and historical collections every day. And Allie has a remarkable gift for sharing those items along with books from their ever-growing personal collection through social media. And that is how Allie came to us today via at Book Historia. I am old, so I'm not so much on Instagram, but over 206,000 people are following Allie on Instagram, inspiring curiosity and appreciation for rare books and special collections. Their expertise and joy of discovery shines through posts that highlight centuries-old books, colorful catalogs, peculiar ephemera, and more, and lead to questions, dialogue, and often awestruck comments. As one commenter on a post summed up, wow, I never could have imagined that such a thing exists. And don't even get him started talking about white gloves. Now, not only is Allie a wonderful example of the magic that can happen when you follow your own creativity and find joy in learning, but they also create those experiences for others, making rare books accessible to everyone. So we are beyond thrilled to have Allie return to KU Libraries and to the Snyder Book Collecting Contest to deliver our keynote address today entitled The Book Collector as a Collection. Please join me in welcoming Allie.
All right. Hello, everyone. First of all, thank you so much to Beth for that kind introduction. I'm very flattered. This is me back in 2012. I had been telling everybody that I won this contest back in 2013. And it turns out that I am even older than I had previously thought. So watch me crumble to dust right before your eyes. And thank you to the KU Library team for welcoming me back to campus. The last time I was on campus was when I graduated back in 2013, so this feels very much like a homecoming to me. And what better home to come home to than the library? Congratulations in advance to the winners of this year's Snyder Book Collecting Contest. I'm sorry that you're having to white knuckle it through my talk, waiting for the results to come out, but I hope you will all be pleased. We had so much trouble judging your entries. They were all fantastic in different ways. And thank you for allowing us the privilege to look at them and read your personal essays. It was a really wonderful experience. If you told me when I won the undergrad division of this contest for my collection of linguistics books back in 2012, which I now know was 12 years ago, that I would be back delivering a keynote for the 2024 contest as some sort of old book influencer / special collections curator, I don't think I would have believed you. Primarily because I didn't really know what a special collections curator was back when I won the contest in 2012. As we mentioned, I never set foot in the Spencer Library. But also because the influencers of 2012 were primarily Kardashians and their ilk, and that ain't me. But back to my first point. My college experience at KU was a little unorthodox. Hardly a doe-eyed freshman straight out of high school with a hankering to be a librarian, I arrived at age 23 as a linguistics major with only the slightest inkling of what rare books were, after having dropped out of 3 other colleges. The reasons for my inability to thrive on my first 3 academic outings were myriad, chief among them misidentified mental illnesses that ravaged my ability to care about myself or my work. It's corny, but a conversation I had with a boyfriend back in high school haunted me during that time. He asked me what my passion was, and I genuinely didn't know, and I had no idea how to find out. It felt like I was on a set track, destined to graduate high school as an honor student, succeed in college, and then succeed in a job. Never mind, I didn't know what that job was supposed to be. It wasn't until I spectacularly flamed out of this track and gathered myself back up that I was able to find my passion. I don't want to belabor my challenging young adulthood, but I think it's an important thing to address. It's part of the collection of experiences that make me who I am. The Snyder team asked me to talk about how winning the book collecting contest impacted my life, and it got me thinking about who I was as a collector back in 2012 and who I am as a collector now, and what a collector is in the first place. My book collections were born of the settings and means I had at my disposal at the time. Diverse settings, but generally pretty slim means. The collection of linguistics books that earned me the Snyder Prize was built over several years working at Barnes & Noble, squeezing every last penny I could out of my staff discount and educating myself in the subject I eventually came to KU to study. Today, I have what I like to think of as 2.5 collecting interests. My 2 primary interests are books that exhibit materials and structures that speak to the history of book production in the West, and what I lovingly describe as yucky books. Books that exhibit extreme signs of use and repair, physical manifestations of reading practices of the past, and the lengths that people would go to make their precious books remain usable. My half collection is miniature books, which I collect because they are, quite frankly, adorable. And in addition to this, I have the privilege of building an institutional collection of books relating to the decorative arts and American material culture as curator of special collections at the Winterthur Library. After graduating KU, I once again cast about for a direction. I finally understood how to navigate academia, and to my surprise, I quite liked it. I pondered postgraduate work in historical linguistics or publishing, and applied for various programs, as well as taking a wild swing and applying for a master's degree in a subject I was not familiar with at a school I had never been to, Material Culture and the History of the Book at the University of Edinburgh, Scotland. My main interest as an undergrad was the historical development of the English language, and in class we had looked at lots of scans of medieval manuscripts. I found I wanted to know more about those ancient documents in handwriting I could barely make sense of. After being accepted to the program, securing my student visa, and hurling myself into a sea of student debt, I embarked for Edinburgh. I tell you this career tidbit in order to touch on something I said before. My personal book collecting is a result of setting and means. I'll let you in on a little secret. The cost of living is astronomical in the UK, but wowie zowie are old books cheap if you know where to look. Now, I'm not talking Gutenberg Bibles or anything like that, But I did buy this 1646 religious book that sports wooden boards and manuscript waste reinforcing the binding for the equivalent of $20. And this 19th century miniature book of Psalms for $10. These were the seeds that germinated into my 2.5 collecting areas that I'm still building today. Now, you may have noticed that I qualified a statement earlier. Old books are cheap if you know where to look. The alley that won the Snyder competition back in 2012 did not, nor would they have been able to tell you what cheap meant in the context of old books. This, too, is evidence of collecting, the collecting of experiences. I know not all of you in the audience today think of yourselves as book collectors, or even collectors at all, but I would argue that, even if you don't collect something physical, you are yourselves collections. Collections of knowledge, collections of joys and tribulations, collections of stupid jokes your friends like. We are collections of our experiences. But Allie, you say, this is a talk for a book collecting competition, not some sort of a vibes collecting competition. Well, newsflash, book collecting has been about vibes the whole time. In her 2020 work, Bookishness, Jessica Pressman notes that we learn to see ourselves in books and to understand ourselves through interactions with them. We are interpolated into becoming selves and subjects through books. The act of collecting physical things like books is inherently linked to the collection of experiences that shape us. I have yet to encounter anybody who collects anything passively. Whether they collect out of love, or for the thrill of the chase of that rare example, or even because they hate something and want to make an example out of it. Strong emotions are tied up in the amassing of like objects. Even if it's a collection that is foisted upon you, something you inherited, or a specific type of item that you were repeatedly gifted, it is still born of a feeling. Winning the Snyder competition did for me what that 1646 book and that 19th century miniature book did for my book collection. It formed a foundation to collect around. I have always loved books and thought of myself as a reader, but it had never really occurred to me that I could be rewarded for that in any meaningful way. At the time, winning the competition was a nice and exciting surprise. But it was only with the benefit of mid-career hindsight that I was able to identify that it really was the beginning of my professional bookish journey. It was also the first experience I had writing or talking about books in such a personal manner, which has since become a keystone of the way I share and teach about special collections. I don't have some inherent book talent. I think sometimes when you see somebody who has been successful in media, there's a tendency to think, oh, the reason they have so many followers is because they're better than me in some way. But I started from scratch with rare books just like everyone else. I was recently chatting with my friend Colleen Thiessen, who arguably achieved the first instance of modern rare book virality with the University of Iowa's miniature book collection. And she speculated that the reason we are able to reach so many people with our content is that we remember what it was like when we were new to books, before we had collected so many experiences. I've handled a few copies of Shakespeare's First Folio, touched a few leaves of the Gutenberg Bible, and spent hours in reading rooms with 11th century manuscripts. But these high point experiences don't dampen my enthusiasm for other rare material. If anything, they enhance it. I once heard an aviation mechanic say, once you stop looking up when you hear a plane overhead, it's time to get out of the field. Finding and sharing the curiosity and joy in the books I get to work with is what propels me professionally. And now, as a curator of special collections with a weirdly large social media following, I'm thrilled to be able to impart those feelings to new audiences, to foster their own collections of experiences, including all of you. Reading the Snyder entrance essays and checking out their collections has made me think about the items I have encountered that embody not just my personal and professional book collecting, but my experience collecting. And I would be remiss if I didn't sneak a little bit of book history into this talk. We're going to speed run over 500 years of the history of the book, starting with the circa 1450 MS Hunter 232 at the University of Glasgow, then hopping forward in time to the 1830s with Folio 360 of the Winterthur Library, and finally to the 1970s with a sample book of marbled papers from my personal collection. MS Hunter 232 is the shelf mark of a manuscript copy of John Lydgate's The Life of Our Lady, written by hand around 1450. It is a religious poem, and unlike some medieval manuscripts, it only features very simple decorative initials. When it was first written, it would have been quite a valued and valuable part of a library, a tool for contemplation of holy topics. But around 100 years later, it was being used for a different purpose. As a tool to teach reading and writing to an artistic child or children. This manuscript is stuffed full of amazing and hilarious doodles, as well as alphabets and other evidence of writing practice, which I did not know about until I requested it at the University of Glasgow Library's Special Collections Reading Room. You see, I was more interested in this, which is probably objectively a bit less interesting to most people in the audience. This is a binding repair performed by the bookbindery Douglas Cockrell & Son in 1952. Douglas Cockrell & Son was a bookbindery in Letchworth, England, that started in the early 20th century by Douglas Cockrell. Douglas studied the art of bookbinding under the legendary T.J. Cobden Sanderson, who worked for William Morris at the Kelmscott Press. Later, Douglas brought his son Sidney into the family business, and Sidney continued to run the bindery after his father's death. Douglas Cockrell & Son didn't just produce stunning bookbindings in the arts and crafts style, they also pioneered the field of modern book conservation, of which this is a fantastic example, including a tipped-in binder's note describing the work that they did. Calling up MS Hunter 232 was a part of my research for my second master's degree at the University of Glasgow, which I was writing about the repair and rebinding work that Douglas Cockrell & Son performed for the library. Excited and amused by this weird, messy manuscript, I trotted down to the office of my supervisor, Dr. Joanna Green, my phone full of pictures of crudely drawn ships, dogs, and birds. We marveled and chuckled at the doodles, and we later went back to the reading room to see the manuscript together. Joanna was my partner in crime when it came to communicating about rare books on social media. This was around 2015, when library Twitter was still vibrant, and we were still experimenting with posting for wider audiences. We would chat about the books that were successful in catching the attention of casual social media users, and speculated on why others flopped. She was a fantastic thesis supervisor, encouraging me to be not so hesitant about points I was making, and supporting me when I had to put in special requests to see particularly important books and manuscripts. She was passionate about communicating the materiality of manuscripts with digital tools via new outlets. She was later interviewed about the doodles in this manuscript for Atlas Obscura. Joanna passed away in July of last year after a long battle with cancer. We kept in touch after I received my second master's degree, gossiping about books and media, keeping each other updated on our professional activities. If I had to describe Joanna in one word, it would be generous. She was generous with her time, and especially generous with her knowledge. That was embodied in how she talked about books. She never gate-kept information or made people feel bad for not knowing information about the history of manuscripts, no matter how basic. It was always a teaching opportunity. My experience of knowing Joanna is represented by MS Hunter 232 and all of its wackiness and joy, and multiple points of access. It is one of my most treasured parts of the collection that is me. Sorry. The next book I would like to talk about is a collection in and of itself, Folio 360 at the Winterthur Library. This is a scrapbook of Berlin work patterns compiled by one Rachel E. Russell from the 1830s to the 1850s. We don't know a lot about Rachel, other than that she lived in England and was apparently an avid needleworker, or at least aspired to be one. We don't know for certain how many of these patterns she executed, although there are a few notes identifying a sewing group she belonged to. We do know a lot about Berlin work. This art is the predecessor of modern needlepoint embroidery and was mapped out the same way. colorful squares on a grid. It takes its name from Berlin wool, a type of wool made from merino sheep that was particularly suited to taking the vibrant aniline dyes that were being developed during the Industrial Revolution. Never before had the public had access to so much color for so cheap. Rachel collected these Berlin work patterns, each of which was colored by hand on gridded paper, as single sheets sold in shops and also from various publications aimed at women. One of the taglines of the collection at the Winterthur Library is that we collect the material culture of everyday life, with a particular focus on America from the 17th to the 20th centuries. I will be the first to admit that this region and period has not always been the most compelling to me as a researcher. I am a medievalist and early modernist at heart, but one must be somewhat flexible if someone wants to be employable. But, oh boy, was I wrong. All the little quirks of early printed books that made me fall in love with them show up in spades in early American books, from the delightful typographical errors to the vernacular repairs that owners executed to keep their precious books usable. Folio 360 may be English, but it helps to tell the story of what Americans were seeing, making, and consuming in the early to mid-industrial revolution. There are examples of Berlin work embroidery in the museum collection of Winterthur, demonstrating the enduring influence of European trends and materials on American decorative arts. The mix of the hand-colored patterns and printed grid paper calls to mind the intersection of manuscript and print in the 15th and 16th centuries, when printed books became more viable but were still often finished by hand. Folio 360 is also just jaw-droppingly gorgeous. I have this experience fairly regularly at the Winterthur Library. I head into the stacks to find something I know will probably be cool, only to find out that it is unbelievably cool. "I can't believe we have this" is a common refrain for me. I did a stint as a cataloger for a rare book dealer called Type Punch Matrix between my first rare book librarianship job at the Smithsonian and my curator job at the Winterthur. It was there that I learned the joy of American books and the variety inherent to books in general. Being a librarian is fantastic, and I highly recommend it. But the sheer volume of material passing through your hands as a bookseller will broaden your horizons, no matter how entrenched you are in a particular niche. Having that wider context and experience allows me to appreciate the importance of Folio 360 beyond its beauty. In a way, it also helps me appreciate my position at Winterthur. I will reiterate that being a librarian is amazing, but I would be lying if I said it had been smooth sailing my whole career. Arriving at Winterthur has been like opening Folio 360. I am constantly floored by the beauty of the gardens and the collections, the kindness of my colleagues, and the support I receive for my professional and personal endeavors. Sure, there's a tear in the pages here and there, but nothing structural. I'm lucky to have encountered Folio 360, and I'm lucky to have the opportunity to care for the collection that holds it. Finally, let's take a peek at what appears to be an unassuming little pamphlet. But you shouldn't judge a book by its cover. This is a sales sample book for Cockerell marbled paper, produced in the late 1960s. If that name sounds familiar, it's because you just heard it a couple minutes ago. This is the same bookbinding firm of Douglas Cockerell & Son that repaired MS Hunter 232 for the University of Glasgow. As if pioneering the book conservation field weren't enough, they also made fantastic advances in the field of paper marbling, for which they became best known, somewhat ironically. This booklet was produced by Douglas Cockerell & Son to be distributed to other bookbinders, decorators, and really anyone interested in buying sheets of their marbled paper. Each pattern has a number, and customers could place orders for whatever patterns suited their taste. Marbled paper as an art came to Europe via Turkey in the 1600s, and is often found on the end papers or covers of books. To marble a sheet of paper, paints are suspended on a slightly viscous bath of water and seaweed extract. Combs and other tools are used to create patterns in the paints, and the paper is then laid on top. Every sheet of marbled paper is a tiny bit different, but Cockerell marbled papers are remarkable for how regular they are. With their sharp patterns and vibrant colors, cockerel papers showed up on everything from lampshades to psychedelic children's stories, and of course, on books. In the past, marbled text block edges helped to disguise the dirt that would accumulate on the tops of books in the times of fireplaces and coal-powered heating. But that's really the extent of marbling's utility. It's something that appears in and on books purely to make them beautiful. I'm non-binary. That has nothing to do with how I got into rare books, but it is an identity that I discovered in conjunction with the development of my career. Once I landed my first rare book job that actually paid the bills, I finally had some space for a little introspection. After a whole life of feeling vaguely uncomfortable with my assigned gender, in high school I frequently drew pictures of what the boy version of me would look like. I actually was able to unpack what was going on there. I am lucky that my gender dysphoria isn't something that regularly causes me emotional distress, but I had long felt just kind of weird in my own skin. Encountering the idea of an identity outside the gender binary felt like a puzzle piece fell into place for me. It felt like I was finally able to see my own marbled papers. And not only that, I could choose them for myself. I wear my marbled papers with pride, in the hopes that those who feel like their bookbinding doesn't fit them will see that there's hope. My life as a queer person in the world of rare books colors my collection of experiences and allows me to connect with people and history in important ways. We're back to the fact that my collecting is the result of my means and circumstances. With my adult money, steady job, and expertise, I can add more interesting books to my collection. And with my greater understanding of myself and my security in that, I can build my collection of experiences in far richer ways. Being a collector is, in and of itself, an experience. It's a way to perceive the world around you and to organize your thoughts. As a bookseller, I sometimes encountered people who were finished collecting books. They had accomplished what they wanted to with their collection and felt it was time to send it back into the world. But in the backs of their minds, they will always feel a spark when they encounter something that touches on their former topic of interest. And so, to the entrants of the Snyder contest and any burgeoning book people out there, I will paraphrase a bit from what Ralph Waldo Emerson wrote to Walt Whitman upon reading Leaves of Grass. I greet you at the beginning of a great collecting career. I hope that, even as your physical collections develop and disperse, that you will always find joy in the experiences that created the collection that is you. Thank you.
I'm gonna need a minute. My notes say I'm supposed to thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Allie. When we first started kicking around the idea of inviting you back to KU, I could not have imagined what you put together for us today. So thank you so much for being here and for your support of KU Libraries. And yeah, let's all curate our own collections, right? But now we're going to shift gears into talking about our finalists and announcing our award recipients. Our 12 finalists, this year we had 9 undergraduates and 3 graduate students, have assembled collections that explore community, identity, family legacies, social and environmental challenges, technology, the concept of home, and many other topics. They show the power of following one's own curiosity and the importance of exploring new ideas. And each of our finalists' book collections illustrates the significance and the importance of the freedom to read. They celebrate what happens when you find your own inspiration and follow your own passion. As one entry stated, "As I grow, my collection grows," which really is what you were saying with wonderful examples. Yes, and the reverse is also true, because as our collections grow, we grow as well. It's a synergistic loop that continues throughout our lives. In the wonderfully diverse collections that are submitted each year to this contest, there are often common threads and themes. Last year, a common thread was trash. Is anybody here for that? That was great. books that were rescued from the trash or from giveaway piles. This year, at least one of the themes is love and connection. So I'll highlight some snippets from our finalists. One of our finalists wrote about their collection, "Poetry made me feel seen and understood. It was a way for me to connect with others even if we had never met in person." Another finalist's bibliography reads like a love letter to music, which they see as a love letter to humanity as a whole. In this year's collections, we find a family legacy of children's literature and the cozy ritual of bedtime stories handed down through generations. The evolving nature of love through the growing pains of history and social change, explorations that set the stage for understanding current society. Your collections also show love of Earth and of your communities. Some of you shared a fondness and appreciation for home that, as one finalist put it, "The state and school that raised me up, this beloved Kansas, this old KU." And that gets me, I know it gets you. I think that's why a lot of us are here today. We see a love of being inspired, of piloting and nourishing your own learning, and of sharing it, discussing it, and thinking deeply about the ideas that are developing. And of course, we see a love of collecting. Even as one submission described it, hunched over dark shelves and dusty antique shops, trying not to sneeze. Now, I have to have a little aside here. We'll get there. You've probably seen in popular reporting about scholarly discoveries the trope of the dusty archives and the boxes where scholars will find hitherto unknown collections. And as someone with a background in special collections and archives, that always chafes a little bit, because we do keep our stacks clean, and and we organize things on purpose. But booksellers have a profit motive, right? And so I think that it's perfectly understandable why some of our materials might be sourced from areas that are dusty. I'll allow dusty in the context of bookshelves. But if any of you go on to talk about libraries, particularly Spencer Research Library, across the way, not dusty. All right. In all of this is a desire to see life from different perspectives and different points of view. So in your collections, all of you who are here today, we discover the diversity, we see an openness threaded through your everyday life. I'm just going to leave it at that. One finalist described reading Dante's Divine Comedy while working out at the gym. I sobbed during Paradiso while walking on a treadmill. I think we've all sobbed reading Paradiso, whether we're working on a treadmill or not, but that's beside the point. We see the connections and relationships with books and the people that have been part of your journey, watching the news with Grandpa as the spark for an interest in leadership and politics, a mom who helped you decipher the language of classic books, librarian.
I thought I was going to get this to you.
No, you timed it just right. Librarians who cared about your interests, and we do, and the friends and teachers you discussed with and debated. So on behalf of the judges and Snyder Committee, thank you all for sharing your collections, your interests, and the pieces of yourselves. We have loved connecting with you. So I am going to introduce our finalists for this 66th annual book collecting contest. If you all would stand when you hear your name, and we'll give you all a round of applause before we move on to our awards, okay? So our undergraduate finalists are Kara Brohl, thank you, Children's Literature, A Family History. We're going to hold our applause. Everyone's a winner here. Weston Kurnow, Looking Out My Back Door, Memories of Home and Homecoming, already standing. Joan Downey, Politics and Social Commentary in the Science Fiction Paperback. Michael Koch, Love Feigns Death, A Showcase of Love in the 20th Century. Joshua Navarro, First Love, Lasting Legacies, Stories of the Lives of Presidents and First Ladies. Riley Parr, Women Who Wrote and the Stories They Inspired. Riley. Teresa Reed, Banned Books Are the Best Books. Stevie Silverman, Shelves Aflame with Rock and Roll, people. Examining rock through nonfiction and academic literature. And Jonathan Swanberg, The Typewriter, Invention, Obsolescence, and Renaissance. Our graduate finalists are Audra Ernst, Personal Growth, One Book at a Time. Max Griffel, Love Across the Ages, Well-Loved Poetry. And Emma Russin, Me, My Books, and Mother Earth. Please let's give everybody a round of applause. Thank you. As Allie said, we enjoyed seeing all of your collections. If you have not had a chance, if you've been too busy talking and enjoying the refreshments, please take time to look at the collections. So I am now going to announce our award recipients. If you would join me at the podium when I call your name to receive your award and share just a little bit more about your collection. We will move through the process because I've got Christine who's going to help me. Yes, okay, with the things that we're doing, right? Yeah, okay. So we're gonna start with honorable mention in the undergraduate division, and that goes to Weston Kurnow for the collection entitled "Looking Out My Back Door: Memories of Home and Homecoming." Weston will receive a cash award in the amount of $100 and a gift card to Jayhawk Inc. Come on up. Would you like to?
Yes. As many of you may have read or already know, I'm about ready to go to seminary in a few months, so I'll resist the urge to sermonize here. I would like to thank everyone here at the libraries. Thank you, everyone at the Student Library Advisory Panel for the great work you do and have allowed me to do. My partner for trudging through dusty shelves of books with me, whether she likes it or not. And I'll just say one last thing, which is I'm reminded of an essay by Marilyn Robinson where she talks about how when the first people came to Kansas, well, there were people here. It's a tragic story. We know this. But when the first pioneers came here, right, the first thing they did was plow the prairies and make food for themselves. And the second thing they did was establish public research universities. And I think that's a really beautiful thing, right? They were educating not for the world that existed here, but for a world they envisioned coming. So I commend everyone to collect their books, not for the world we have, but for the world they want to see come. So thank you so much, everyone. This is an honor.
I'm not going to make it through this without crying. Okay, our second place award in the undergraduate division goes to Stevie Silverman for the collection entitled Shelves Aflame with Rock and Roll. So Stevie is going to receive a cash award in the amount of $250 and a gift card to Jayhawk Inc. So congratulations, Stevie. Would you like to say a few words?
Well, I'd like to begin by thanking the Academy, of course. I'd also like to recite a relevant quote from one of my favorite singer-songwriters, Dave Grohl, who once said, "You can sing a song to 15,000 people and they'll sing it back for 15,000 reasons." Hi, Zach. And I think it kind of works in the same way with reading these people's stories, is that you don't know what will inspire you and you don't know who you're in turn going to inspire. Growing up as the nerdy kid who all liked classic rock and stuff, I found solace in knowing that these singer-songwriters who lived decades before me, whose heyday was long before I was around to really witness them, understood me in a way that even my peers did not. Music is probably the most meaningful thing in my life, and so I've been very happy to be able to share it with all of you now in this collection and through the books that I read and the music I listen to. Thank you.
Okay. First place in the undergraduate division goes to Kara Broll. Would you like us to come to you?
No, I can come on.
Okay, excellent. Kara's collection is entitled Children's Literature, A Family History, and Kara will receive a cash award in the amount of $500 and a gift card to Jayhawk Inc. Congratulations,
Thank you
Kara.
so much. What an honor.
Yes. All right.
Oh, wow.
Would you like to?
Yes, I put a timer on my phone because long-windedness is a curse. I want to say thank you, first of all, to everyone. This has been a labor of love over many generations. Some of the oldest books in my collection, all of which are from either my family or my husband's family, are from the generations that preceded us, and they now belong to my 8-year-old daughter. I'm merely their steward. My first semester at KU, I took a wonderful children's literature class by Dr. Gisela Anatol, and one of the first things we learned is that children's literature is unique in that it is not written or published by the intended audience. It's pretty much the only genre in which that is the case. And because of this, it's a way in which we can help children learn and grow. And one of my fellow students said, "I just don't understand why children's literature is all that important." Watching all of you look through my collection today, it's so evident why. Because I heard so many people go, "I love that book when I was a kid. Oh, that was my favorite book when I was a kid. Oh, the Very Hungry Caterpillar and Corduroy." It's a shared experience among all of us, the love of children's literature. It's usually the first book that we ever pick up. It's the books that got us here. And right now, children's literature is under attack. It's under attack in schools. It's under attack in libraries. And I keep this stewardship of our family library for my daughter, and I hope that for all of you who may go on to start family libraries of your own, don't forget about children's literature and how vital it can be in helping shape young people into who they can, become to create a better and more inclusive and more diverse and just better future for all of us. And thank you again so much.
Thank you. All right, so we've got our graduate division winners. Receiving an honorable mention in the graduate division is Audra Ernst for the collection entitled Personal Growth, One Book at a Time. Audra will receive a cash award in the amount of $100 and a gift card to Jayhawk Inc. Congratulations, Audra. Comfortable saying something? Okay.
Thank you everyone for coming tonight. I just wanted to share a few words about my collection. It is very personal, and I just want to thank you for recognizing that. That display of vulnerability means a lot to me, and thank you for coming out and supporting KU Libraries.
All right, second place in the graduate division is Max Griffel for the collection entitled Love Across the Ages, Well-Loved Poetry. I got time. Okay, I'm going to speak. Max will receive a cash award in the amount of $250 and a gift card to Jayhawk Inc.
Hello, I will once more reiterate, as with everybody else, thank you for coming out and supporting myself and everybody else who has put forth a collection. It's a lot for us to share our books and ourselves. My collection has all been about the human connectionness across people, times, places, and stuff. Perhaps that is why I'm a historian. Thank you again.
All right, so first place in the graduate division goes to Emma Russin for the collection entitled Me, My Books, and Mother Earth. Emma, you will receive a cash award in the amount of $500 and a gift to Jayhawk Inc. Congratulations, Emma. Here you go.
For the last time, I'd like to thank everyone for being here tonight, for the judges for looking through our papers, for some of the judges who may have seen my undergraduate submission to this contest, which was not very good. And for the people that have listened to me babble about these books. My collection is about the environment, whether that be animals, people that live in it, or how we affect each other as people. And what I'd like to urge all of you to do is go outside and really consider where you are. Take the time to look at the land you're on, the earth ecosystem that you live in, and take the time to kind of revel in that. Thank you.
Oh, I don't want this to end. But you all have other places to be. You've spent some time with us, and I want to thank you so much. And we may be looking at some weather here. So help me for congratulating one more time all the award recipients for our 66th annual Snyder Book Collecting Contest and all of our applicants who were with us today. So congratulations, everyone. Okay, thank you all who are not book collectors, or maybe you are, for joining us in this wonderful tradition. This just gets better every single year. To say that this, I've said it before, favorite part of the year, absolutely the best event. I love meeting students. I love hearing all of your stories. And for those of you who are going to be at KU next year, there is absolutely no reason why you cannot submit again. Tell your friends there is cash money on the line. We're giving away money. So thank you to all the participants, judges, my fellow judges. We had a blast, right? Everyone who made this event possible, have a wonderful evening. Thank you all so much.